about your boss? Who are you? We know that he's been bringing people across the Malaysian border. We know
This emotional outburst is from the award-winning, heart-wrenching play called She Has a Name. This play addressing human trafficking was written by Andrew Koeman, a writer from Red Deer, Alberta. Koeman says he has always had the heart to use faith and art together to make a difference in his many productions, but says it wasn't until he attended a social justice conference in Southeast Asia that he fully understood the scope of human trafficking in the world, especially among children.
And it shocked me and rattled me to the core, and I needed to find a way to engage that in a human way about it, so my way was to write a play.
The play She Has a Name is inspired by an actual human trafficking incident at the Malaysian border in 2008 when more than 100 Burmese workers being smuggled were abandoned to die in a water truck in the sweltering heat when the truck broke down. Koeman says writing the play featuring the main character, number 18, was key in not being overwhelmed by incidents like these.
And I think that when we hear that 1 million children every year are forced in some facet of the sex trade, it's hard to come to terms with a statistic like that. And for me, I found that through writing, if I can imagine one story of one person, then I can imagine that I, as a person, can actually do something about it.
Steve Waldschmidt, known for playing the role of Jesus in the Passion play in Drumheller, had been feeling a similar tug to do something about the epidemic of human trafficking.
I was learning more about human trafficking and feeling quite devastated by it, and actually asking God, what do you want me to do?
When Waldschmidt was approached by Koeman to take part in a reading of his script, She Has a Name, he knew he couldn't say no.
And I had this kind of tingly in the back of my neck feeling of like, is this the answer to my prayer?
Waldschmidt accepted the challenge of directing Koeman's play, and in February 2011, the play premiered to a sold-out audience in Calgary, followed by a run of sold-out shows across Alberta, garnering moving reviews from the faith community as well as the secular media outlets. This unexpected response led to the decision to take the play nationwide for a 6-month tour in 2012.
You know, even a year after that initial production, as we were ramping up to begin rehearsals here, we kept hearing from people who saw the show a year ago saying, that story is still under my skin, or that story is haunting me. I can't forget number 18. She Has a Name tells the story of Jason, who's a Canadian lawyer working undercover as a John in the brothels of Bangkok. And he's trying to find a key eyewitness survivor from a specific human trafficking incident. He meets number 18 and builds a relationship with her, and the question of the play is will he be able to win her trust and convince her to testify once he discovers she is this star witness.
The play is rich in the portrayal of its characters and haunting imagery. Number 18 is a young prostitute trapped in this brothel in Bangkok. Waldschmidt explains two very different sides of number 18.
We'll try it. She is at the top of her game, and she is the classiest, most sought after worker in this particular brothel. And on the other hand, she is this broken little girl who has been horrifically abused and violated and ripped away from her family and has no hope.
Number 18 is played by actress Evelyn Chu, whose demanding role is to enter into the anonymous world of this young girl each and every performance, struggling to find her identity.
She's a person that you, in the play, you love to get to know her. I think in the play, it's important that the audience falls in love with her and relates with her, because she's a person and who represents thousands of women and young boys all over the world who are being trafficked. So they all have a name.
Jason is a man who has high ideals, and he really wants to see justice in the world. He's a lawyer who has corporate experience, but it wasn't enough for him.
Carl Kennedy plays the role of Jason and says he feels the sacrifices his character has made to pursue justice, having left his wife and kids at home to be in Bangkok to stop this injustice.
I think he's torn in between two worlds, which is really interesting. He's having the Skype conversation with his wife, but he's also going into these brothels every day. But he knows that God has put him there.
Koeman says that when number 18 encounters Jason and sees that he's an entirely different kind of man than the others who visit the brothel, her barriers start to break down and she begins to see a way out. Kuman created special characters he calls the voices to surround her in her distress.
Longs for one, just one gentle touch.
The play is hard-hitting, and can be difficult, the storytelling of it, and so the voices, in a way, they do soften and bring a sort of poetic and prophetic sense to the play, and in a way they are comforters to 18. They're a sense of heaven touching earth, and the presence of God even in the play to kind of nurture and protect the victim of the crimes.
Waldschmidt says that in the end, it is the response of the audience that matters, and says the impact is powerful.
At the end of the show, after the curtain call, the audience most times just sits there in silence, and people aren't quite sure. Nobody wants to get up and leave. Some people are trying to regain control of their emotions. I would say predominantly people's response afterwards has been, wow, that was devastating. Thank you.
Kuman is co-founder of Raise Their Voice Against Injustice, an official society created to address issues of injustice. Through the message of his play, he has hopes for this not to be simply a profound story, but rather a catalyst to inspire action.
Well, we want to compel thousands of more Canadians to be modern-day abolitionists.
They would leave the play not able to deaden themselves to this kind of injustice, but that their hearts would be wide open, and they will join God, join the movement of humanity that is rising up to end human trafficking and child sex slavery.
In Calgary, Natalie Faith for 100 Huntley Street.